suggestions that you have to avoid injuries.
Yeah.
That is great. And the nutrition program is amazing as well.
Ah,
I've been
good.
following up all that.
Nutrition is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also how to perform the high heels.
How long have you been watching our YouTube channel?
For about the last year now.
Amazing.
So, quite a while. So
Oh, it was more
you guys mean a lot.
Hey, you guys, don't wait.
All right, welcome back, guys.
Should we take these out for the moment? Or
We can
do
take these
just
out.
leave them?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll leave them in.
Guys, we have a special guest. I was telling Nate, this is one of the first times where I've been like truly kind of starstruck, as we have Dean Karnazes. Karnazes. You say Karnazes?
Karnazes. We'll get the.
That's the first thing you got to get right. That's how I'm feeling right now. Anyhow, we just talked to Dean on the phone, and he's gonna call in a few minutes, and we're gonna get a full hour. And I'm gonna see if I can't just stumble over everything I'm about to say, because Dean is somebody I've followed now for 13, 14 years.
Yeah,
when his book first came out.
I remember, first him coming on my radar when I first moved out to San Francisco, and I got to actually see him do a live, speaking session at Sports Basement, like a local sporting goods store, and I was just sort of dumbfounded by running 100 miles like through the night, just everything. If you guys haven't read, his ultramarathon
man book
initially, like he just like went out one night and just started running like kind of crazy distances. Whereas like most people build up, he just like went there.
And which is funny is I was living in Seattle at the time, and he used to live in San Francisco. Now he lives in Marin. But the story starts with him at a bar in San Francisco, and then running down like to Santa Cruz, I think it was. And so when I finally moved here, I remember thinking, oh my God, that's a hell of a thing to do in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And so many things now when I go back, I'm like, wow, like that was impactful.
Yeah.
I was, just moved to Seattle and was getting into the post-college running scene and so on and so forth.
But he's written so many great books now, guys. If you're just chiming in, we are getting ready to have Mr. Dean Karnazes on the phone. We'll get him calling in about 5 minutes or so. But very quickly, let's just say hello to everyone, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
We have Rasmus, what's going on? Jean-Lee, stoked. David, how are you? Kyle, Tanae, Exton, Claire.
Got some new names here, awesome.
All new names. Jenna, what's up, Jenna? Hey guys from Dallas.
Greg from Florence, Kentucky. I've been to Florence. In fact, I think I ran a track meet there when I was in high school.
I love that.
Yeah.
Dave says, what's up, guys? Huge thanks also. You guys have changed my running for the better. Longest injury-free stretch I've ever had.
Hey,
knock on wood.
It's such an awesome thing to hear. It is our journey into trying to be injury-free runners that kind of led us to doing this stuff in front of you guys. So totally, really, really good to hear.
Carrie says, hey everyone, excited to hear about ultras, even though I just started the half marathon training for the second time. I think Dean's such a good job of just capturing why we like to go out and suffer at any distance. And he has really pursued a lot of different ranges, but I really think his message can be applicable and inspiring really to anyone.
Right. Yeah, and what I really love about it, him as a kind of poster child for the ultramarathon scene and just running in general, is that he really is truly about the sport of running and just the, like, when you say the sport, not necessarily competing, but just the act of going out and running. And I think that is an amazing thing.
You know what I want to know?
What?
If he approves of your green smoothie.
Oh, he's definitely gonna be.
We've had a few people come through. And I think overall, like,
I got an A out of an A+.
I think you do. I think you've done great. Like, you're a 4.0.
At least didn't like how much
book.
spinach I put in there, but
she didn't like the spinach. She thought the tomato was weird. But you want to know what? We're pretty open-minded around here. Who says tomatoes can't be in smoothies?
Tomatoes are a fruit.
Although, Elise, thank you for the lemon and the ginger, because
that's true.
That was just a lovely and delightful addition.
I spent all last weekend canning tomatoes. Did I tell you that?
No.
I have 11 jars of tomatoes at my friend's house that I gotta go pick up today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Bought them, peeled them, cut them, blanched them, put them in the jars, sealed them.
You're getting ready for the end of days.
The funny thing is, even during the season, I didn't really use like fresh tomatoes all that much. So I don't know. I just wanted to do it. My friend was doing it, like whatever. That's Craig's crazy kitchen for this week. Yeah.
Oh man, well we'll have to get in there a little bit too as well.
But I really want to dig actually into Dean's diet, because that is one of the things that he wrote very little about in the first edition of his book. Expanded on it, and now it's like almost 15 years later, since he probably wrote that, and I'd love to hear how it's evolved, and so many things have kind of evolved in the nutrition scene for endurance athletes as it is. So
Totally. So good.
All right, we got Trevor Coleman. Edward Wickham says,
Greenville,
hi, Running
South
Geek Girl,
Carolina.
that's awesome. Rachel Harper from Western Nebraska. I think Nebraska might be one of the few states that I'm missing.
Yeah?
Yeah, that I've not been to.
I don't know. I may have driven through Nebraska, but I'm not really sure.
It might. I have to go back and look at my path. I did a cross-country road trip.
Yeah. I'm excited for my upcoming trip to Tennessee.
Have you never been to Tennessee?
No, not really.
Huh.
Yeah, we're going to be
There you go.
Chattanooga and then up in the Smoky Mountains.
That's right.
For a little backpacking.
We're both going to the Smoky Mountains, actually.
It is actually kind of hilarious that
Yeah.
we're both going there at the same time.
I grew up going there, so it's been, we used to go a lot.
Oh, I like
When
that.
you grow up in Kentucky, the Smoky Mountains is like,
That's the most
Tahoe
visited
or
national
something. I
park.
don't know.
It is such a cool thing.
who is it? Bill Bryson who wrote A Walk in the Woods?
Yeah.
That was an amazing book.
Yeah, I don't know if it's... Are you ever inspired to like walk the entire Appalachian Trail?
No.
Is that ever something?
No, I'm not. I actually don't enjoy, like, hiking is fine for me as a pastime with like some friends, but long hikes for over, like, I would be more enchanted around the idea of like saying, okay, I'm gonna run a whole bunch of it in segments.
Yeah.
But spending 4 months of my life
Just hiking?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's in my thing.
I like the idea of like unplugging for an extended period of time.
Yeah. I like the idea of biking. Like if it was a
bike tour or something,
Yeah,
that'd be
like
kinda
doing
cool.
the French. Is it the French Alps in like some of the passes in the Tour de France? I've always wanted to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So, guys, if you guys have questions for Dean Karnazes, you should get them in now because he's calling. And
Dean
here
is
we go.
here. And we are ready to
Yep.
go. All you need to do is hit the green
Yep.
button. Hey, Dean.
Hey, you guys.
All right. I think we have it. I think this is working.
Yeah, we just want to
For
make
the first
sure
time
all
without
of our
any
sound
glitches.
is good.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, Dean. Thank you for calling in.
I wish I was running in, but I guess I can't do that. I can't do everything.
You know, we were just talking about how when Nate and I first read your book, this is, many years ago when it first came out, I didn't live in San Francisco at the time, but your book started out talking about your 30th birthday, going to a bar, and then going home and then starting the run, which I'm sure you've told that story many times. Do you remember where in the city, like what bar was it, where were you living, and where did you run to?
Yeah, no, I remember it it's etched upon my mind. So
Awesome.
the bar. If you know San Francisco, you know the Marina District.
Yep,
Yes.
sure.
So the bar was right on the corner of Chestnut and Scott Street.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I know that one. That's like the trifecta. Yeah.
Yeah. It used to be called the Paragon. It was kind of a
Right. Right.
kind of a cool place to hang out. It was the
I've
Paragon.
been there. Yeah.
And
oh, that's amazing.
I was working. I had a job where some of the time I had to commute down to Santa Cruz, so
Okay.
I kind of had that whole route down Highway 1 clocked out, and I
Sure.
knew if I got to Half Moon Bay following this particular route, it would be 30 miles. So
Wow.
I ran from San Francisco to Half Moon Bay.
That is incredible. And not even, I remember you saying in the book, it was like, you just like picked up shoes that you had at home and decided, okay, I'm going to do this.
They were like gardening shoes. I did, yeah. And I didn't own running gear. I had these silk, thankfully I had these silk boxers on. They were pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
Just peeled off my pants. I'm like, all right. I was drunk,
Wow, that is amazing. I love that story. Thinking back to when I read your book and I actually met you at the Seattle Running Company store back when you did your first book tour. And I think back of I was maybe 23 at the time or something like that. And now when I think back, wow, that actually had a fairly decent impact on me in terms of I remember specifically asking you a lot of questions about your diet because at that point in time, I remember you saying something in the book about eating a single jelly bean would kind of throw you into a tizzy because you weren't taking in that much sugar. Do you remember? Was that actually in the book or was that in person? I can't remember.
Yeah, no. I mean, at the time of that book, I was pretty much eating whatever I could get in my mouth. Kind of infamously or famously, whatever. Ordered a pizza one time. I was running a 200-mile relay race by myself, It's a 12-person relay, but I don't have 11 friends left, so I figured I still want to do it. Damn it! So I was stranded out in the middle of the night on this kind of rural backcountry road with no crew around, but I had a cell phone and a credit card in my pack, so I ordered a pizza and just mowed that thing. I got a Hawaiian style pizza. I figured the pepperoni might be too spicy, so I got Hawaiian style.
Amazing.
I used to basically eat. I just thought a calorie was a calorie, and get them in your mouth, and it doesn't matter what form back then.
Yeah, and then like you cleaned up your diet quite a bit, right? I remember you were like really big on like salad and salmon. Is that how's your diet changed over the years?
Yeah, no, it's evolved quite a bit. I mean, 360 degrees, I would say. It went from, pretty much eating things that were refined and processed to eating, nothing that's refined and processed. If it doesn't come in, if you can't pick it from a tree or dig it from the ground or catch it with your hands or catch it with a hook, I pretty much don't eat it. So,
Gotcha.
And
Now, this is Nate here, and more recently in your latest book, The Road to Sparta, I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet. It's on my list, but just reading the kind of the comments in back of the cover, you commit to this journey, and you also commit to eating what was then available for food at the time. What was that like to do this epic run? And I'd love to hear more about that. But also just eating figs and olives and cured meats, which, by the way, just sounds like a good excuse to eat those things.
Well, I mean, I digress just a bit. Invest in that book. Invest the time to read it, and I'll tell you why. It doesn't sound too compelling. I did not get. I mean, of all my books, this one has sold the least, but it's got the best reviews and the best comments. It's just not that compelling. Like you look at it, and you're like, I can back, whatever. I'll get to this someday. But everyone who picks it up and starts reading it says, wow, that was an amazing book. But the race I described is called the Spartathlon, and it is a recreation of the original route that Philippides, the marathoner, took from Athens to Sparta when the Persians invaded Greece in 490 BCE.
Yeah.
So it's a 153-mile foot race in southern Greece, so in the heat. And, he did it, again, this is 2,500 years ago. He did it with only the foods that were available at that time. And I figured I'm writing this historical narrative about this runner. Try to put yourself in his head. I mean, try to, do what he did. So I only ate, you're right, I ate cured meat like beef jerky, olives, figs. The ancient Greek runners used to use something called pastille, which is sesame seed and honey, kind of a paste between the two.
Oh, wow.
So this sesame seed honey paste, and obviously I just drank water. I didn't have any sort of electrolyte replenishment. And like I said, the race is 153 miles, and it's, it's a 36-hour cutoff time, so it's a pretty aggressive cutoff.
That is a very aggressive cutoff time.
Yeah, but I trained with those foods. I thought, I've been training quite a bit. I'd run up to 8 hours using these fuels. But the problem was that eating figs for 24 hours, it backfired.
Oh, yeah.
Quite literally backfired.
Oh my goodness. Would you go between fresh and dried, or was it always like one?
No, it's primarily dried. He would. The ancient Greeks, they were called hemodromi, or the Romi, which meant literally day-long runner. So these were ultra marathoners 2,500 years ago, and they could outrun a horse. In fact, the guy Philippides, his name, the translation means "spare the horse." Because in the hilly mountainous terrain of southern Greece, a trained Romi could easily outrun a horse. So they dispatched these foot messengers to gather intelligence and disseminate information and news between the city-states. And this guy was a beast. Obviously, he ran.
Now, what were they wearing for shoes? Right, what were they wearing? Did they have their Nike Vaporfly 1%? 2,500 years ago.
Yeah, well, they prefer the Hoka, but I mean the historical narrative says, the historical record says that they trained a lot of times in sandals. Like leather sandals, but it also says if they wanted to go really fast, they would run barefoot.
Yeah.
So they're primarily running barefoot. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
incredible. Did you? We're not nowhere near expecting for you to attempt anything like that barefoot or in sandals. Has that inspired you on your footwear and in general? Like shoes are such a big part of our running culture. We've really seen over the last 10 or 15 years sort of the rise of the minimalist shoe. That got knocked down a peg or two, but it seems like some important traits of the minimalist shoe have then like carried forward into, shoes nowadays. Like, how do you think about footwear for yourself when you're running these types of distances and just in general?
Well, I've always been a big believer in minimalist footwear. So I remember when I was running cross country when I was in high school, our coach used to have us run. I lived in a place called San Clemente, which is down in Southern California, not far from the beach. So he'd have us run from the high school to the beach, stash our shoes in the bushes, and then run barefoot along the sand.
Yeah.
And then we'd run back to the high school and he'd have us run barefoot on the infield tracks on the grass. And I thought that was fantastic. I did run a marathon one time barefoot. There was about, it was 50% was kind of graded fire road. The other 50% was road.
That's
not good. No, I just wanted to see, could I run barefoot? And that was, ironically, my muscles were less sore because, you're pretty much landing right where you should land mid-foot. And absorbing all the shock, but my feet were just destroyed.
So you actually felt the difference then?
Yeah, no, I felt like my muscles, were actually better off than when I run a fast marathon, in just regular running shoes.
Yeah.
So I thought that really helped. Now, it's funny. I met with Nike. This is probably 15 years ago. So this is before Born to Run and everything. And they brought me up to for this consulting project with their advanced design team, and the theme of my presentation was let the foot be the foot. I said you guys are overbuilding your shoes, and you're trying all this motion control stuff. I can't even run in your shoes. It feels so awkward and unnatural. Just let the foot contour the way the foot naturally contours. And they said, well, some people don't have good biomechanics like you. They, their alignment isn't good. And I said, well, the awkwardness in their gait is their body's way of adapting to this imperfect alignment. Don't try to force them into an alignment like mine because it's unnatural for them.
Right.
And they kind of scratched their head. And then Nike Free came out. And I'm like, oh, man. I should have got royalties.
Royalties, yeah, totally. So
that was wrong.
So that's really incredible. One of the things that Craig and I were both talking about before we got you on was both on the nutrition side and also on like the running mechanics and some of your training, like all of these now like kind of hip trends, everything from the ketogenic diet to going more towards a minimal shoe. It sounds like
all this, the kind of strength training stuff that we teach in our programs. I mean, he's been an advocate of that for a long time.
You've been doing this early on. Like, was this just intuitive to you? Were there people you were talking to or that had like a profound impact or influence on how you thought about training in your body and how to eat?
Yeah, I've always been very curious. So I read a whole lot and I experiment on myself. So I kind of self-select what works best for me. I really tune into my body. Like if I do this, how does it make me feel? If I put this in my mouth, does it give me energy or does it leave me kind of feeling lethargic? If I wear this shoe, do I feel like, wow, that's incredible, I'm running free, or do I feel like I'm really being bound by it? There was a guy named Jack LaLanne who was really a mentor of mine. I don't know if you guys are probably too young to remember Jack LaLanne.
I recognize the name.
No, he's a
like
famous
the fitness guru. He was
he's incredible.
He was way before Schwarzenegger. I mean, he was the guy in the leotard who would, bend his feet, really, really buff.
Dude, he swam across the bay.
Really?
Like he's done crazy things. And he's incredible.
Crazy things. Towing a boat with 30 people for his 60th birthday.
What?
But he said, if man makes it, if man makes it, don't eat it, and if it tastes good, spit it out. I'm like, I like this dude. Yeah.
That's
funny. I've experimented quite a bit. In fact, I was looking through some old photos of mine of a race called Western States 100, which you guys probably know.
Yes.
and I was looking at this jersey I had that it cut holes all in the front of it because I thought, you know what, I want air to flow through my jersey. Even wicking fabric doesn't let as much air flow, so I cut a bunch of holes in the front. And I remember the race director was like, "You guys have been hit by shotgun blast." I'm like, "It worked really well." And now, I mean, you see, like, you know, all the elites are wearing these specially designed shirts with these holes in the front. I'm thinking,
that's
wow,
funny.
yeah, that's wild, full circle, yeah.
Yeah, that is great. That, you know, in terms of your kind of mental health, and I've heard you talk a lot about your, you know, interpersonal relationships and like keeping stress down. Like, what does your day look like? How do you keep your mental health in check?
Well, you know, I'm 100% Greek, and you know, being Greek, I always follow the advice of the Oracle at Delphi. And you know, the first pronouncement was "Know thyself." So I think it starts at looking inward and seeing your really understanding your nature. So I know that I'm very much an introvert, and that I need quiet, alone time. So if I've got if I'm doing a lot of presentations and keynote talks and doing book signings and, you know, doing group runs, which I love, but I know I need to decompress after that. So I really guard my time, and I really structure my schedule to allow a lot of free time. You know, I don't mind being by myself. I'm very comfortable being by myself, and I also have a really strong relationship with nature. So sometimes I relate to being in nature, but by myself better than I do in groups of people. And I think that's really important. I think that, you know, probably 90% of the U.S. population has no relationship with nature. You know, they get in a car, they go to their office, you know, they go to the mall or, you know, to dinner or a restaurant, but there's really no immersion in the outdoors, where I need that. I really need that sort of time.
Yeah.
And, you know, the other thing, I've sacrificed a lot of, you know, kind of lucrative deals because I'd rather be time affluent than money. I mean, having free time, you know, just to wander is more important to me. It brings more satisfaction than you know, material things that I could buy with money. So I
love that term,
that.
time affluent.
Time affluent, yeah. Is that what's drawn you to, you know, writing books? Because it's a project that you can do, you know, by yourself, kind of on your own schedule for the most part? Is that partly what draws you to that?
Very much so. It's a way that I can be detached but still kind of, you know, put food on the table.
Sure.
And, you know, it also is a very disciplined practice, writing, as you guys know. It's every bit as disciplined as ultra running, which I really like. I mean, it's, you know, 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration.
Totally.
That's true. That's very interesting.
So maybe what would be an interesting thing would just be to share, what's a typical day look like for you right now, both, and I would just love to
training,
touch on
work, nutrition. Like, I'd love to know, just like, what did you do yesterday? What does that look like for you now?
Yeah, so, you know, one thing I've started to do is I've started to just wake by my own body, so not to force myself to wake, and just listen to how I feel. So, you know, I'm training pretty hard right now for a bunch of big races I got coming up. So yesterday I was restless in the middle of the night. I got up at 3:30. I slept on a headlamp, and I ran a marathon. I ran actually 27 miles before breakfast. So I did a nice trail run.
Wow.
And and came home, and then I've got I work out of my house, so I've got my entire home office set up at standing level. I haven't been sitting for probably, you know, it's kind of a trend now, but probably 15 years I haven't been sitting.
Wow.
So I take off my shoes and I wander around the house barefoot, you know, constantly bouncing on my toes, kind of conditioning my feet muscles just after running.
Right.
You know, and do a couple. I had a couple conference calls. You know, sent some emails. I'm working on another book project, so did that.
Oh, nice.
And I also have a pull-up bar in my office and a sit-up mat, and I have this cycle of HIIT training, high intensity interval training.
Yep.
And it's about a 12 to 15 minute routine of push-ups, pull-ups, dips, sit-ups, and burpees. So I cycled through those. I did 5 sets yesterday throughout the course of the day. So just in between, emails or whatever, I'll whip out a set. And then I did a shorter run, it was about 9.7 miles in the afternoon, a tempo run.
Wow, you doubled up. So you're still doubling up every so often?
If I feel like it, yeah, I do. I see a lot of advantages in that. And this is kind of a tangent, but I'm starting to really question the way a lot of us train. Does it really? Doing back-to-back days is great, but does it? How many back-to-back days?
Right.
And how many long runs should you do, and how many fast runs, very short distance? I'm really questioning. Say you're running 50 miles in a week.
Right.
Let's say 70 miles. That's easier. Is it better to run 10 miles a day, or run 50 miles one day and 5 miles 4 days?
Right.
5 slow miles. I'm doing a lot of testing, like with racing on the weekends. Like I did a 50-mile race last weekend as a training run. The last 2 weekends I've done 50-mile races, just as training runs.
Gotcha.
And seeing how that compares, and then going kind of light for a few days, kind of recovering, and then racing again.
So getting the bigger push and then letting yourself recover versus being like having your train be spikier versus much more moderate all the way across.
And then when I'm doing shorter runs afterward, I'm doing them faster, but they're short, like they're real short. They're 5 miles. They're pretty fast, and it's hot out.
Yeah.
And I do it right in the middle of the day, but it's only 5 miles.
Wow, that's interesting. And so are you, like, in terms of your adaptation, do you feel like you're recovering like throughout the week, or do you feel like you're back to normal after a few days after you do a 50 mile training run?
I still haven't figured that out. I mean, I ran 50 miles this last weekend. It was in the Midwest, and it was really hot and really humid.
Okay.
It was kind of horrible, actually.
Yeah.
It wasn't super hilly. I think there's like 6,000 feet of up and down.
Okay.
And I thought, wow, I'm kind of destroyed just from the heat and the humidity.
Yeah.
And I got up on Sunday and ran a 10K really fast and didn't even feel like I had run the day before.
Wow.
Which is bizarre, because
the
50 miler I'd done the weekend subsequent to that was here in California, in Marin County.
Gotcha.
And I took like 3 or 4 days before I was feeling like, wow, finally I'm kind of working it out.
What is it? Yeah. What is it determining your schedule there? I mean, if you go to the Midwest, is that because like you're making an appearance somewhere and so you decide to go train there, or are you trying to get like some time in with that type of humidity and temperature, or what was the motivation to move around that much for your racing?
Well, it was, I started this race with the North Face called the Endurance Challenge Series.
Okay.
So I was,
gotcha. Okay.
The founder of that race. So it was one of our races that was in on the Kettle Moraine Trail and on the Ice Age Trail in the Kettle Moraine State Forest. It's in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm there, and I have to be honest. I can't go to a race and not run it.
Right.
I can't just be like cheering and high fiving and working an aid station. I've tried. I chew my nails off. I just want to be.
Right.
I feel like there's a war going on, and I'm not helping out the troops.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. And it sounds like after this whole time, like you still have a real drive for running. Like you still like to race. You still like to compete. Is that? Yeah. Has it been the same for you, or have you kind of seen some like ebbs and flows over the last few years?
It's been pretty consistent. It's kind of come back stronger now. I'm now looking at I hate to say this, but I'm becoming an older athlete. So I'm now looking at every race I do. I'm kind of winning my age group, which big deal because no one really cares who's winning your age group unless you're in that age group. But,
that's a really funny thought. That's true. But yeah, it is. I mean, I can't believe that you're 55 because like you don't look anything close to it. And just thinking about how many miles you put on over the years, I mean, it kind of really redefines what we think of as being fit, whether at any age, but especially over 50.
Well, one thing I encourage everyone to do, and I do this completely, is I look through at my life through the lens of being an athlete. So everything I do is kind of focused on being the best animal I can be. it has to do with diet, training, cross training. Sleep is so important, as we know. Also, interpersonal relationships. I think you can't be your best if you have turmoil in your relationships. So everything I try to optimize to be the best performer as I can be.
When you talk about interpersonal relationships, when you say optimization, is there something specifically that you pay attention to, or that you're doing in order to kind of improve that?
And this is interesting, just to jump on, because running can be this really selfish pursuit, right? Like, we have to dedicate time for ourselves to train. So how do you really dedicate all of that time with those relationships?
Yeah, no, it's people say it's a fine balance, but there's really no balance. I don't think my life is harmonically imbalanced. I like to say it's managed chaos. Mm-hmm. So I think that with regard to your interactions with others, it's not quantity that matters. It's quality. So even with my kids, when they were growing up, I was gone. I was traveling sometimes 200 days a year, racing and competing around the globe. But when I was home, there was no distractions. Like, we were having fun together. I was doing fun things with them. I was all there for them, and then I'd disappear again. So they didn't seem longing for me. They didn't say, "Oh, you're leaving again." They would saying, "Oh, have fun, Dad. I can't wait to see you when you get back." So I think it's quality of a relationship, not quantity. I think if you spend too much time in with certain people, it's not necessarily a good thing. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, interesting. To kind of like go back to the kind of balance. Like, I remember you saying, I mean, this is a long time ago, but about talking about like not sleeping that much, like 3-4 hours a night. Is that right? Like, and how's that changed? I mean, you said you woke up at 3 o'clock and went and ran a marathon. How normal is that for you, running through the night these days?
I still do it maybe a couple times a month, and I say a couple times a month outside of racing. Obviously, if I'm going to do a 100-mile race, or further, I'm going to be up for a couple nights. But I think that's one of the reasons I've avoided burnout, is I just still love, on Friday night, just to set out with a headlamp, hydration pack, and a couple dollars stuffed inside, and just go run 80 miles. Sometimes these are road runs.
Wow.
And, I talk to people along the way. I mean, I have fun with it. A lot of weird shit happens when you're running 3 in the morning through Petaluma. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And if I feel like going fast, I go fast. If I feel like jogging, I jog. If I feel like walking, I walk. If I feel like going into 7-Eleven and having, a latte or something, I'll do that. So it's just kind of I call it runabout. I used to live in Australia, and the Aboriginals had this thing called walkabout, where when they were getting kind of stale in their setting, they used to just take off for as long as it took, just kind of to see the world through fresh eyes.
Yeah,
I love that.
That is really incredible. I can't believe you're doing that outside of like the 100-mile races, etc. You're doing that on a pretty regular basis. Twice a month is a lot.
Yeah, it is really good. Now, before we move on to other things, I just wanted to hit on this balance, or this harmonious imbalance, and this interaction with the family. A common theme we get in a lot of our Facebook groups, especially when we have runners who are just training for their first half or their full marathon, is like they kind of get this new identity, and sometimes there can be this little distance between them now as a runner and them as the family person they were before. What do you recommend to those types of people when they're starting to deal with some tension in their interpersonal relationships, but they have this pursuit and love for running? You obviously touched upon the quality of the relationship, but if you have any other like tangible specifics that you could share, that would be great.
No, and that you're very perceptive. I mean, when one partner gets into running, or especially triathlons, it's very divisive. And it will either bring a relationship closer, or it'll blow it apart. There's no middle ground. I mean, it's very one way or the other. And I think that if you become, if that's kind of your passion, and as it becomes your identity when you start taking on something like a half marathon or a marathon, it kind of defines who you are. If others can't live with that, those relationships are not going to survive. And that's kind of a reality. So thankfully, when I started, getting into these long distances, it brought my wife and I together. And I don't think it matters if your partner's a runner or not a runner. I think it can work either way. With regard to, having kids, which is always a big issue, and traveling for races, that's the one time I used to just splurge on having fun. So if we were going to travel to a marathon, I would just, we're going to stay in a nice hotel. We're going to have activities planned outside of my running. So these are going to be specific for the kids or my wife, some nice dinners, some really fun activities for them. So don't be so me-focused, even though it's my race. I was looking out for them. And that strategy really paid off because, I've seen a lot of kids where they're like, Dad, we got to go with Dad again this weekend to this race.
Right. Yeah.
Where, my kids are like, oh, cool. Which one, where are we going now?
Yeah, that's cool. That's really, really cool. So you kind of flipped it around and gotten them hyped up. And it also seems from a compromise standpoint, you running while the household is asleep means that you get back at 7 a.m. when the family's waking up and you can spend some time with them, as opposed to every Saturday morning you're gone from 7 a.m. to noon running.
Well, I just, I always felt very responsible to my family, and it was sincere. I mean, from my heart, they were my biggest priority and my biggest love in life. So, people say, wow, you just sacrificed so much. And I thought, no, I really didn't sacrifice. Like, I wouldn't want it any other way. For me not to feel guilty, I've got to get my work, I've got to compromise my sleep so that I can be there for them. Otherwise, I knew that if I ran, didn't get them to school, didn't have breakfast with them, I'd feel guilty and I wouldn't feel good about myself. So it kind of, I think a lot of people feel that way. Like if they make sacrifices to accommodate others, I think that's almost fulfilling in a way.
Yeah, I love that.
And have you, in terms of
one thing we have to give Fitbit a shout out for our giveaway.
Yeah.
We have all these fantastic comments from our people. I think Craig and I could continue to chew your ear off for a long time.
We could ask you questions for the whole hour.
We're gonna get this thing. So guys, really special thanks to Fitbit, which is one of Dean's partners, for contributing to this week's giveaway, a Fitbit Ionic watch.
Which Nate and I both. Oh, where's mine? Oh,
you're not even wearing yours. I'm wearing mine. Very cool, like smartwatch. You can get your messages in through here. It does all sorts of activities and tracking.
I've been using it as my running watch. It's good.
Yeah, it's been really good. There's the claim link as usual in the description. Get in there, enter, and get a chance to win a Fitbit.
Yeah.
Am I eligible?
You are eligible. You are eligible. You'd have to follow yourself on Instagram in order to get an entry.
Yes.
But if you haven't done that already, you're absolutely.
I love it. Man.
So you grab a question. I really want to hear the answer to his sleep question. Like, are you still sleeping like a few hours a night, or has that increased, or how did that change? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I still, it's more variable. Like, I used to consistently sleep for 4 to 5 hours a night, and that seemed like enough to me. And, and I want to preface that by saying that my dad sleeps very few hours. He always has his whole life, so maybe some of that is hereditary. But now, some nights I sleep for 4 hours, other nights I'll sleep for 8 or 9 hours. I really just listen to my body. I mean, I know a lot of people listening to this or watching this are saying, yeah, sometimes I get up at 3 in the morning. I can't sleep either. And, instead of counting sheep, I'm like, just go with it. go run.
Yep. I love that. That's so great. We've definitely got a lot of questions related to sleep, so appreciate that. Jenna Kins was asking about that as well. Let me see. What was a good...
Can you peak in your 40s? I like that question.
I got a good question from Jazzman from our YouTube handle. He basically asks, like, can you stay TRT?
That's us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Can help you stay good in your shape for the 40s and laters, and I'm not asking this very well. Like, what about, running and age and the ability to peak? Like, what's been your experience with that? I think a lot of times when runners get into running maybe later on, they're like, well, I'm not 25 years old anymore, so maybe my best years are behind me. But that doesn't really seem to be the case.
Well, my body has changed. So, I was never the fastest guy, and now I'm certainly not the fastest guy. I remember when I think I was 31. So right after I started running, I went and ran the Honolulu Marathon in sub 3 hours with no base whatsoever.
Wow.
There's no way that's going to happen today. I mean, if I want to run sub 3 hours, I've got to train my butt off and do all the speed work and everything. So, your leg speed goes out the window. Me personally, I really got into the sport hardcore well past my prime. I really didn't start racing until my early 40s.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
I
Is
went
that
to
right?
big races. So, I think, in your early 40s, at least when I was doing it, I was very competitive. Nowadays the landscape has changed altogether because there's so many young, collegiate runners, really
jumping into ultra,
elite, gifted runners that are getting into ultra marathoning. But I really didn't get into it hard until my early 40s, and most of the races I was doing well at, were 100 miles or further, so there were never anything really shorter than that. So I as I've gotten older, I've come to grips with the fact that if I'm gonna race something really hard, I've got to kind of focus on that and set aside a training block for that particular race. Otherwise, I'm not afraid anymore just to hop into marathons or ultras as training runs, and it's somewhat, it's a little bit unsettling. I mean, like this last weekend I was talking about this race that it took me over 10 hours to run a 50 miler. Well, I say over 10 hours. I was still up, near the front of the pack.
Sure.
But I know a lot of runners, are seeing me, thinking, wow, he's really slowing down. Well, I used it as a training run. I had run a 50 miler the weekend before that.
Sure,
I'm comfortable with just saying whatever. I don't care.
This is
if I'm
where
going
you are
slow.
in your
I don't care.
training,
People,
sure.
Yeah, if people are passing me, I don't care. I don't care what they say.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for my own reasons. Yeah.
I love that. So another good question, a little bit around nutrition. We talked about this with your Greek thing, but just some more specifics. For example, when you did your morning marathon, did you take anything to eat or drink with you on that, and what was it, and how often would you take it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and this might surprise you, the answer. I had a cup of coffee in the morning, when I got up, and that was it. That's all I had until I got back in the door. So
wow.
One, I ran fasting, and two, I'm training for this Spartathlon, which is going to be very high. It's going to be maybe over 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of aid along the way that I'll be using. So I wanted to run depleted, and just train my body to run in this depleted state.
Wow. And do you feel like you are hydrating throughout the day, and that in a way that allows you to do that, or that's out there for hours? I mean, I guess at least in the morning you're not facing a hell of a lot of temperature, but man, that is a long way to go without any aid.
Yeah.
Well, and I should disclose that I do that sometimes in the middle of the day with other runners, and every time I do it, people they look at me like, my God, you're not sweating. You haven't had anything to drink.
Yeah.
So it might just be like I don't sweat. I don't sweat. I mean, I go to Bikram yoga, and I barely crack a sweat. And I just
so you don't feel like
drink.
you're losing that much fluid.
No, and I think a lot of people overhydrate, and I think I think a lot of people have too much food pre-race.
Yeah, sure.
And even on course, I think a lot of people overeat.
I agree with that, yeah.
So when you're in a non-fasted state, let's say it's a race, or maybe we go back to Western States, which you did again in June, you probably were a little bit more than a cup of coffee on that one.
I wasn't.
You weren't?
I love this. It's great.
I don't like starting a race with anything in my stomach. I don't care if it's a marathon or a 100-miler.
Let's back up then.
Yeah.
What would be the last meal you eat before your race, and when would that be? And what would it generally consist of?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was the night before, so it was probably around 7:30 or 8 p.m.
Okay.
And it was just a normal meal. I remember I had a salad, a big piece of salmon, some avocado. The one thing I do before almost every race is I really cut back on fiber, so especially insoluble fiber. So it was romaine lettuce. There weren't any leafy greens. There was, there wasn't broccoli or anything with insoluble fiber.
Yeah.
And it was I probably ate total of 700 or 800 calories.
That is so
Incredible.
little.
So
Wow.
you're just such a fat adapted athlete. And so when you go through aid stations, like what would be like you're really suffering in the middle of an event and you're like, I got to pull the ripcord here and take something in. What would that like pull the ripcord thing be? Like I know for me, I would try to go as long as I could, but like say towards the end of say an Ironman triathlon or say like the end of like the Leadville like mountain bike, it's like, okay, if I can get like, and granted it's like straight sugar and caffeine, but like Coke was that one thing. It's like as soon as I'm on it, I can't get off of it anymore. So I'd always save it for like the final few miles. But like, do you have anything like that you look forward to, or are you just this like stoic Spartan Greek individual who's just like, nope, looking forward to my salad and my salmon.
This story. This is great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I tend to go toward nut butters.
Okay.
Interesting.
As a source of calories, and there's a company called Yum Butter, and it's not even really. They don't make. I've tried to convince them to really push this for athletes because it's a great delivery system. It's a little pouch with a twist top, and those to me, it's almost 300 calories for a little container, and it just seems to sit really well. I like the cashew nut butter. So that's something I'm really drawn to as far as calories, and that again, nut butter is primarily fat.
Yeah, totally.
I remember the first time I met you, you turned me on to Maranatha almond butter.
Yeah.
Yeah, sticking out with there.
So it's funny. I still use that. It's crazy.
I love that. So while we still have you, just a handful more questions from our community. Sam Gatchapin asks, do you have a breathing practice? Now that you know,
does he mean meditation?
Well, it might be a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've tried both breathing techniques and meditation, and I can't get there.
Gotcha.
People say when you're racing or running, do you breathe through your nose or through your mouth? And I'm just like, get air in your lungs however you can.
Yeah.
Just get it in there.
Totally.
So I know other people that swear by it.
Yeah.
I know other people that can get into meditation by just sitting still. I have to move. Running is my meditation. That's really where I find my soul. And there's an African proverb which I really love, and it's when you pray, move your feet.
Feet, yeah.
So I think there's something with motion that stirs emotion, and I just have to be moving to get in my head.
Do you do you have like a mobility, stretching, yoga? Is that kind of part of your daily habit or not?
No, I mean I don't really stretch at all. I have to be honest. I don't stretch, and I do Bikram yoga, which is hot yoga.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that feels great,
definitely.
Primarily for heat training, heated adaptation.
Sure.
But it also, I think it helps with that is stretching really.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
So another category of questions we get for you that I've seen come in have just been around injuries. I think a big challenge with all runners when they start to get more ambitious and add more miles in, they start to get a little dinged up. What's been your experience with injuries for running, and what's your strategy? Like, what do you do to combat it?
He's famous for not having a really major injury.
I know. I just want to hear him say it, and
this is gonna
I feel like we're gonna get a little standing desk action in there, and I just want to hear.
That's true.
Well, I've lost toenails. That's like a major injury.
Not the slouching does hurt.
I don't. I still don't. People always say, "God, it's amazing you put on so many miles, even on the road, and you've never had an injury."
Yeah.
And I just think injuries are foreign to me. I can't speak to them. I have no personal knowledge to give people advice. I've just never had an injury, and I can't even imagine what it would feel like having an overuse injury, or any sort of running injury.
Yeah. Do you have sore spots that come up at all? Like, I mean, you must feel beaten up after your races, depending on how long they are. But what is it like? What is your version of feeling beaten up?
It's just that lethargy you get after a really long run.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of the shit I've done has been absurd. I mean, it's like one time I ran for 24 hours on a treadmill in Times Square in New York City.
Oh, you're kidding. Yeah,
on a 2-story platform in the middle of Times Square as a fundraiser. Anyway, 24 hours on this treadmill. I think I ran 154 miles.
Wow.
I got off the treadmill. Obviously I haven't slept, and I go take a shower, and then I get on a transatlantic flight to Portugal to run the Lisbon Marathon the next day.
Oh my goodness.
That is wow. That is.
How do you recover? You don't recover from it. I mean, I'm beat up from running on a treadmill for 24 hours. Obviously, I can't sleep at all on that flight. I'm just pacing the aisle.
God.
And
That's
then get
incredible.
out, and pretty much it's the next morning in Portugal. It's time to run the marathon.
And but like, are you feeling like, what is like? So you haven't faced injuries, but what is your feeling towing the line? Like, are you feeling? Because I've definitely heard you talk about like lactic acid, and like, you have a little bit of an adaptation there. Can you speak to that? Like, what is the difference that you think about when you think about yourself physiologically compared to what you hear from other runners?
I think it has something to do with the me not sweating too much. So I think I'm able to keep my electrolytes, my body chemistry, in alignment somehow. I don't know how. I think the other thing is that I don't need to take in a lot of calories.
Yeah.
So that might be another factor. And then I think, the final factor is, my biomechanics are really, really good. So I've always been a natural midfoot striker. I've always taken, shorter, really quick footsteps. I've always used my upper body, like I've accentuated my arm swings. So I've been doing those things that are kind of in vogue now. That's just how I feel natural running.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Amazing.
It is really incredible how much of the stuff that really has become in vogue now you have come to naturally in some way, shape, or form.
And I just love, I think we both love your really holistic approach towards eating and nutrition, towards treating and respecting yourself as an athlete, not just a runner, and really experimenting and figuring out what really works for you. Because I think so many runners, they're told to say listen to your body, but they don't even know where to start, because it's like nature, like they've been so disconnected for so long, it's hard to even know where to go there.
And one thing I'll say,
my advice is always listen to everyone, follow no one.
I love that.
Seek advice constantly, and then find out what works best for you.
I just love that you have become such. I mean, for a long time now, I've been the poster child for ultra running, because your story around kind of the purity of running is not about necessarily like trophies and races, but is really pure to the sport, which I really, really appreciate. And I love that you're still involved. And still like showing up to so many races and so many events.
Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah.
And in the North Face race, which we love, Craig and I both ran the 50K last year. Such a fun, hard, challenging thing. If you were responsible for the 7,000 feet of climbing in that thing.
I'm just glad you guys still like me after that.
Yeah. That's a great race.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you. I remember it came about around the same time as you did your 50. Or was it just after you did your 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days? But I didn't realize you were at the start of it.
The North Face wanted to turn that into a legacy event.
Right.
And I said, you're not going to find a lot of people that are going to sign up to run 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days.
Right.
Let's modify, the format a little bit. And I came up with that. It's our 12th year, and it's
so good.
It's amazing.
It's the largest off-road running series in North America.
Is that right? Yeah, it's an amazing event. Like, I've done it multiple times. They've done it multiple
really
times.
well done and everything.
Yeah.
Well, Dean, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
fun fact, I live in Marin, not too far away, so maybe one of these days we can get some videos together and get you on our channel. We would love that. But where can people find you? Where can they find your latest book? We just want to make sure that,
Yeah, I mean, we have some of the links.
Yeah.
We have definitely links in the Gleam link. If you guys click the Gleam link below in the description, you'll see his Instagram channel. But where do you, I know you pay attention to your social media. Are you posting mostly on Instagram? I saw that you were posting even that 50 mile in the Midwest. I saw that just recently.
Yeah, I try to stay current. How people find me, I think it's just, type my name in a search engine. If you use Google, use Google. But that you can see my website, my Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, however you want, whatever your preferred method of tracking on someone. I'm pretty trackable.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I honestly try to update that stuff, and I try to respond to everyone who, I just think I owe it to people if they're inspired by me and they have a question to try to respond. It sometimes takes a while. But I don't know, it's just something in my heart. It feels like that it's such a great community that I want to give back in every way I can.
Yeah, that is so apparent from the way that you have kind of guided your career, and we really appreciate it. Nate and I are both runners, and then of course now in the running industry from a professional sense, and it's been just amazing to have a spokesperson like you kind of pushing people along and getting more people in the sport. So thank you so much for that. It's really special.
No, I feel so honored to, I can show up at a 5K and be recognizable runner, or show up at an ultra marathon. So I feel so fortunate to be in that role, and and I feel responsible to take care of myself and present myself as the best athlete that I can be, so that I do continue to inspire people. I don't ever want to let people down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking forward to seeing what you do over the next few years. Especially, I think I heard you say you're going to do Western States when you're 60 as well. That's going to be amazing.
I'm still chasing that one.
That's awesome.
I always say, this is my 12th year doing Western States. I just say it's like chasing a windmill. After every race, you're like, God, I just did not have a good race. I got to sign up again.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That is really amazing.
Incredible.
Well, thank you so much for all your time, Dean, and we'd love to keep connecting with you, especially since you're close by. But yeah, I know this is a treat for us for sure, and definitely for everybody listening. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dean.
No, I appreciate you having me on, and good luck to everyone watching and listening on winning the Fitbit. It's a great device, so hopefully you'll be the winner and you'll enjoy it.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks, Dean.
We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right. Cheers.
Whew. Man,
that was great.
I have to say, I could have gone for another hour just asking questions.
I feel like Craig was seriously fanboying there. I haven't gotten that look from Craig.
Oh my God! Seriously, he
doesn't look at me that way.
I stare at this guy way too often. But yeah, Dean for me is kind of as good as it gets. I mean, especially considering that just in terms of his physical adaptations, the way he treats his body, from a training perspective, I think it's just super impressive. I mean,
totally.
From a accomplishment perspective, who has done that? 350 miles, 81 hours of continuous movement. The things that he's done are just incredible. So he's just kind of a specimen of humanity, and then on top of it, he is such a great poster child for the running community.
He really is.
People kind of will bicker back and forth around the amount of media that he's gotten over the years.
Sure.
But
is he a self-promoter? Is he in it for himself?
But when you talk to him, you're like, he is such a great guy. And if you've had a chance to meet him in person, which I have now a number of times, he is the exact same person inside and outside. Whenever you talk to him, whenever you meet him, he is the same person, and I just really think that the running community benefits from that.
Our friend Mario Fraioli of the Morning Shakeout just interviewed him on his podcast maybe a month ago. It's a fantastic interview.
Yeah, definitely go listen to it.
Check that out. He kind of goes into probably more the serious competitive ultra side, his part of his career that way. But guys, it is 1:03, and we need to do the live drawing of last week's winners for the Tailwind Nutrition giveaway.
Awesome.
And remember, clicking the link down below will enter you in to the Fitbit giveaway, which we will do the live drawing of next week.
And
so
this
even
is
if
no slouch of a device, man. This is like
no
$250. This is like the best thing that you can get from Fitbit, and it's like their top of line device. I've been very, very pleased with it.
I've been pleased with it too. And even if you're watching the recording, you still have a chance to enter just before Thursday.
Yep.
So our two winners for the Tailwind Nutrition giveaway is Denny from Spanish Fork, Utah, and Cassandra Darrensborg from Riverside, California.
Is Denny kind of like Madonna, only one name?
I know, just the one name. Congratulations, guys, on your Tailwind Nutrition. If you recall, that was that recovery rebuild product. A lot of coconut in there, really delicious.
Yeah, loved it.
Like the vanilla. Normally, I really think vanilla flavors suck. I don't like them. They suck balls. I'm just gonna say it.
We should have a giveaway of just a cup of coffee, since that's what Dean runs on.
I know.
The man is really incredible.
This guy is still not over this call. He's just gonna be floating on clouds for the next hour.
I'm gonna be eating salmon and salad for the next 3 weeks. It's like purely based off of
this is what Dean does.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Really fun live show. Next week we have another really fun guest, Mike Wardian.
Oh yeah,
who
nice.
is this super stud ultra runner. And we will really enjoy getting to talk to him. And of course, we love connecting you guys with these incredible people. So,
thank you.
All
right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Oh, before I have no idea, really no help. And then I saw your site. Oh my God, the first time I'm in love with it. I've been watching it.
I mean, I was not running. I just started like 4 years ago, and I've been using this run experience application that is really helpful, and I love it. I recommend it. The whole program, I loved it, but things that I didn't know, it was how to practice the drills and also the warm-ups and the after running, and also breathing, and also the other options that you have to avoid injuries.
Yeah.
That is great. And the nutrition program is amazing as well. I've been following up all that.
Nutrition is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also how to perform the high heels.
How long have you been watching our YouTube channel?
For about the last year now.
Amazing.
So, quite a while. So you guys mean a lot.
And you guys don't waste time and watch the run experience. They rock. Oh, before I have no idea, really no help. And then I saw your site. Oh my God, the first time I'm in love with it. I've been watching it.
I mean, I was not running. I just started like 4 years ago, and I've been using this run experience application that is really helpful, and I love it. I recommend it. The whole program, I loved it, but things that I didn't know, it was how to practice the drills and also the warm-ups and the after running, and also breathing, and also the other options that you have to avoid injuries.
Yeah.
That is great. And the nutrition program is amazing as well. I've been following up all that.
Nutrition is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also how to perform the high heels.
How long have you been watching our YouTube channel?
For about the last year now.
Amazing.
So, quite a while. So you guys mean a lot.
And you guys don't waste time and watch the run experience. They rock. Oh, before I have no idea, really no help. And then I saw your site. Oh my God, the first time I'm in love with it. I've been watching it.
I mean, I was not running. I just started like 4 years ago, and I've been using this run experience application that is really helpful, and I love it. I recommend it. The whole program, I loved it, but things that I didn't know, it was how to practice the drills and also the warm-ups and the after running, and also breathing, and also the other options that you have to avoid injuries.
Yeah.
That is great. And the nutrition program is amazing as well. I've been following up all that.
Nutrition is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also how to perform the high heels.
How long have you been watching our YouTube channel?
For about the last year now.
Amazing.
So, quite a while. So you guys mean a lot.
And you guys don't waste time and watch the run experience. They rock. Oh, before I have no idea, really no help. And then I saw your site. Oh my God, the first time I'm